It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, Andy Burnham's plans to prevent a lost generation. In another major policy announcement, the Prime Minister has set out his proposals to tackle youth unemployment with technical training for 14-year-olds and a new bursary to help get young people into apprenticeships.
We've had a system built for too long around the university route, and it sends a message to some young people that they're some kind of second-class citizens.
Well, there are more than 1 million young people neither working nor learning in this country, and that is a number that is on the rise. Successive Prime Ministers have promised action. We'll be discussing whether Andy Burnham can succeed where others have failed. Also ahead tonight, what could be the last chance to solve the 40-year mystery surrounding the disappearance of Susie Lamplugh. The estate agent went missing on this day back in 1986. I'll be joined by veteran crime correspondent Martin Brunt as the Met says that this investigation will be mothballed in 12 months' time. Plus, with more than 330,000 people displaced in Europe's wildfires, I'll speak to a British man who was forced from his home near Bordeaux in some of the worst conditions France has ever seen. Plus,
within around about a week.
Too close for comfort, the Shadow Home Secretary inadvertently gets a front row seat for a French shooting drill in the Channel. All that to come and much more here on the UK Tonight. But first tonight, 1 in 8 people aged 16 to 24 in the UK are not in education, employment or training. That's a number that is on the rise. A report by former Minister Alan Milburn claimed it could go up to 1 in 6 by 2031. And we risk leaving behind a lost generation of young people ill-prepared for work. Well, today, the Prime Minister announced his plan to do something about it, with education reforms that would put technical training on a par with academic classes and financial support for those wanting to start an apprenticeship. Mr Burnham isn't the first Prime Minister to promise to tackle this issue, but will his plans actually work? Our Midlands correspondent Siobhan Freeman-Powell has our first report tonight.
A taste of a trade.
That's it, keep
a
your heat
workshop in Stoke, hoping to spark an interest in technical careers for young people not in education, employment or training, otherwise known as NEETs.
Well, to be fair, I wasn't really doing nothing and I needed to get work.
Every career has to start somewhere, but for Jack, learning in a school setting was always a struggle. He says without this workshop, options are pretty limited.
I don't think I'll be working, to be honest, because I wouldn't be working in a McDonald's or an Asda. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd probably be on benefits or something.
Why do you say that? Why do you say you wouldn't be able to do that?
I just can't. I'm not a people pleaser. Like, I don't like being stacking and talking to people. Like, I'd rather just build something and like, feel like I've achieved something.
It's these very people the government wants to target.
For decades, young people have been told that this leads to success and this doesn't. I'm not having that.
That's the video.
His head's fell off.
The Prime Minister says university education has been the priority for too long.
We've had a system built for too long around the university route, and it sends a message to some young people that they're some kind of second-class citizens. And it's just not right. They need an education system that works for them as well, that offers a path to all young people, that's balanced between academic and technical.
He says the earlier young people learn technical skills, the better, wanting Year 10s to be offered apprenticeships alongside core academic subjects like maths and English. A scheme already offered by the ADI Group, which took Charlie on as a pre-apprentice at 14.
It gave me like a really solid path to a career that I was like passionate about and something that's always going to be in demand because everyone needs engineers. So it just gave me like a clear goal and like some security when I finish my apprenticeship.
The Prime Minister has also pledged to fund more college places and extra support to businesses ready to take young people on. But questions remain over how these ambitions will work in practice, particularly in parts of the country lacking industry.
We work with a lot of young people where large group sizes and large building spaces can be quite intimidating. So for us, having our small niche network is something that's really important. So I'd kind of push the Prime Minister to think about how we can incentivise all training opportunities for young people and not just the large college.
The government wants to change perceptions so technical education will become a first choice, not a fallback, so more young people can gain skills to unlock opportunities and meet the needs of the economy. Shimon Freeman-Powell, Sky News.
We're going to put that now, mate. Let's go this side, because we're going to test it.
Well, I'm joined now by the Labour MP Patrick Hurley, who's a member of the Work and Pensions Committee. Also joining us tonight, Nathan Coe, the Chief Executive of Auto Trader, and Amanda Marsh. She is the Director of Careers Education at North Chadderton School in Greater Manchester. Thank you all for joining us on the programme this evening to talk about Andy Burnham's plans for the futures of young people. Let's speak to Patrick Hurley first. How desperately is action needed in this area, and are these plans a step in the right direction?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on this evening. I'm really pleased to see these plans being announced this morning. For too long, we've been failing young people in this country. I was a governor at a further education college for the best part of 10 years, and so many of the criticisms I used to get as a governor were that the local employers weren't getting what they needed in terms of the skills that the young people were learning on our courses. And I think that we're almost at a risk of losing a whole generation of young people coming into the labour market, into the jobs market, without the skills to do the jobs that are needed in this country. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in this country, and there's a lot of people need work. But for too long, we've had this kind of skills mismatch. I'm really cautiously hopeful, I think, at the announcement this morning that that'll address that skills gap.
Yeah, a skills gap, a skills mismatch. As you said, it's been talked about for some time by successive governments. Andy Burnham, through his work in Greater Manchester as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, introduced the MBAC, which is the Manchester Baccalaureate qualification. He introduced that a couple of years ago now. Amanda, I'm going to bring you in at this point because your school has taken that on. Just explain to those who aren't familiar with the MBAC what it is and what the benefit of it is.
Hi. So basically the MBAC is, it's more than a curriculum. It's where we sort of have that connectivity between employers and students. So what happens at the age of 14 is that students in year 9 or 10 will have a look at a website called Beeline. They'll have a look at different options for technical education, for career pathways, and it will help them sort of decide whether they want to go either academic or technical. They're not sure. A lot of people age 14 are totally not sure at all. And it gives them that choice of options. But more than sort of a curriculum, what it does, it gives it that important link with employers. So us as a school, we've really benefited from it. So we've had big businesses, small businesses, local businesses, national businesses coming into our school. We've had students going out to the school, and that's from age 14 all the way up to age 18. They've managed to have placements there, work encounters there, and work experience there. And because of that, we've been really, really fortunate that we've had every single student from age 16 placed on education or training pathways. And we can probably say that that's as a result of those really good connections that we've had with those businesses. And that wouldn't be so good if we'd not got the Manchester Baccalaureate.
Yeah, let's bring in one of those businesses, Auto Trader, Nathan Coe, Chief Executive of Auto Trader. The MBAC being used as an example of something that the Prime Minister is now trying to adopt nationwide, and it seems to have been a success in Greater Manchester. From a business point of view, how does this partnership work?
So when it comes to putting the MBAC together, the businesses were really heavily involved, and it's not just the MBAC itself, it's T-levels and it's the other approaches to building paths into organisations in the local area with relevant skills. And it's interesting that a lot of the talk in your previous story was about the trades, but our business is a technology business. Our number one recruitment is computer science, which has typically been seen as an academic career, but through the MBAC, through T-levels, through apprenticeships, we're increasingly bringing people into that, which previously was excluded, and it was really only a university path that could lead you into that career. So I think it's hugely positive.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the pathways aren't just to trades, they are, as you said, to digital and tech, and also to NHS, health and care professions as well in the Greater Manchester area. Patrick Hurley, the Prime Minister is also big on the decentralisation of government and the devolution of power, this Manchester model, tailoring skills and qualifications to what is needed locally. That is going to be difficult in other areas of the UK. When you think of Greater Manchester, a big connected city, a lot of big business there. In other areas of the country, rural areas for Cornwall, like Cornwall, for example, that may well be more difficult.
Yeah, I think that nobody underestimates the challenge of making sure that the right skills are promoted in the right areas here. There's a lot wrong with this country and a lot that needs to be done. But I think that the kind of the devolution agenda that you're alluding to there, it's almost a kind of a paradox, isn't it? That you follow Manchester and what Manchester has succeeded in over the last 10 or 15 years by doing what's appropriate for your local area and your local leaders with skin in the game, who know their local areas, who know their businesses, who know what the families and the communities need. If you devolve power to the local people and the regional mayors and the regional council leaders, you get results. And you get results not by doing what Manchester's done in Greater Manchester, but you get results by doing what's appropriate for your local area and your local people.
Yeah, and of course, if you qualify and have a pathway, it doesn't have to be a job in a local area. You can still go outside your local area to find a job with the skill set that you have through whatever pathway it may be. Amanda, what has been the feedback from parents and from students? Because you talk about the success you've had with the MBAC and the success rate you've had with getting pupils from education straight into work. Because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach for education. That's been the criticism of the education in England for so long, that it's been too academic, and people have been quite sniffy about technical qualifications, skills-based qualification. That is changing because the world of work is fundamentally changing.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, for us, we do have the majority of our students, around 60-odd%, who do want that academic route. And we obviously encourage that. There's a very clear route to academic success and to UCAS and to university. What our students have been wanting is that clear path, that clear line of sight to apprenticeships, to degree apprenticeships, to the world of work. And so what we found is that our students have been asking for this. They've been wanting to have experiences of businesses. At 14, 15, students don't know what they want to be. And if we just don't introduce them to different careers, then how do we inspire them? How do we get them wanting to go into work? How do we get them wanting to know what they want to do? And so those experiences that those businesses are offering to these students are just so key in ensuring that they're on the right pathway. So we want all our students, parity for students of all shapes and sizes, to make sure that they are on the right pathway, whether that's an academic pathway or a technical pathway. And that's what our parents want, that's what our students want, and that's hopefully what this is delivering, and it certainly is for Manchester.
Yeah, and Nathan, outside of Manchester, if this takes off and this model is taken nationwide, that puts a lot of pressure on business, because we talk about one of the key elements here of this pathway is work experience and meaningful placements. Can businesses up and down the country cope with the demand, potentially hundreds of thousands of teenagers looking for not just a job, but the steps that get them into that, which is work experience?
I mean, I don't think it's really a question that we ask ourselves at all. I don't think there's anyone in Auto Trader that's worked with our apprentices or graduates that would see this as a cost that we're bearing for some broader social good. Of course, it does have those fantastic outcomes for young people that felt like they might have otherwise be one of the 1 million people unemployed. But as a business, we get back very enthusiastic students, but they're very often very smart people that just don't fit into the system as it's defined today. And as a result, we have more computer scientists moving their way through the organisation. Those skill sets, every business leader will tell you it's hard to find really good people. Well, I think on percentage terms, we get some of our very best people through these early career programs. They're loyal, they're smart, they do great work, and they're all the things that we're looking for in any employee, actually, and they move very quickly through their careers as well.
Patrick, the world of work is changing faster than the education system. We know that. Andy Burnham's trying to catch up. But how much harder is that going to be? Because, you know, there's been a lot of talk about AI, for example, making many of those entry-level jobs in some sectors redundant. The world of work is changing at pace. How confident are you that education can keep up with that?
Yeah, so education definitely does need to keep up with the changing world of work, but more generally, government policy does. Prime Minister's been clear that he wants to reindustrialise the economy of the UK, and that's going to bring jobs and opportunities in manufacturing, in clean energy, defence, life sciences, food production, all of the stuff where the next generation of industry and the next generation of jobs is going to come from. And I think that also brings in its own challenges in terms of how the education system copes. So the education and training system then needs to make sure that what the young people of 2026 are being taught is going to be appropriate for the economy of 2036 and 2046. You know, we should have been starting this conversation maybe 20, 25 years ago, but better late than never, and more power to his elbow. I just hope that we've not left it too late for the next generation.
Yeah, well, indeed, that is a good note to end this on. Big changes potentially coming and big challenges ahead. But what alternative is there? Over 1 million young people not in employment, educational training, that number on the rise. Patrick Hurley, Labour MP, member of the Work and Pensions Committee, Amanda Marsh from North Chadderton School, and Nathan Coe, Chief Exec of Auto Trader. Thank you so much for your contribution this evening. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Now, a man has been found guilty of murdering 2 men that he met in a homeless shelter in Cornwall after being convicted of killing his cellmate while he was on remand. We can get up to date on this story. Sky's Oliver Whitfield-Mirchich has been following it for us. What's been said today? What have police had to say, Oliver?
Well, one of the things that we'd heard from James Desborough when he spoke to police officers as they were investigating these 2 men who were missing was that he told one of the forensic officers he was a fan of Dexter. Now, this is a hit TV crime show where a police expert works for the authorities by day, but by night goes and kills people and then hides their bodies. And that's exactly what he did. In the case of Claudio Aquinillo, he burnt his bones into 1,900 pieces. That took the police months to find and put back together. He, in the case of Daniel Coleman, dismembered that body and then put it into a shallow grave not too far away from his woodland home. He was last seen with both of his victims, the last person that he was seen with, and killing them a month and a half apart from each other. You know, this is somebody that really took great pleasure in killing, somebody that had planned this. There was documents that the police had found, so a really harrowing case when you look at all of the details that came out in that court case.
And, of course, there is another victim in all of this as well, Oliver.
Yes, there is. So he was found guilty not only of killing Claudio Aquinillo and Daniel Coleman. Whilst he was waiting to go for his trial, he was obviously held in prison. And in prison, he had a cellmate who apparently was snoring too loudly for Desborough's liking. And so he strangled him to death, moving the body so the police officers or the prison officers wouldn't know that he had necessarily been killed. So he killed 3 people in the space of 5 months. Somebody that really had a thirst to kill, a serial killer. And we had this from the police earlier on. This is Detective Superintendent Rachel Bentley from Devon and Cornwall Police saying Desborough not only brutally murdered both men, the men in this trial, but then savagely desecrated their bodies, seeking to hide the evidence of his crime, and in doing so, he denied both men of dignity and their families the opportunity to say goodbye. Now, we're expecting the sentencing to take place tomorrow back at Winchester Crown Court.
Oliver, thank you. Oliver Whitfield-Mirchich there with the details of that case. Still to come on the UK tonight. The Hull funeral director described as pure evil. More details from court. Also ahead, the battle to contain Europe's wildfires. We'll hear from a Brit living near Bordeaux. And police continue to search for witnesses in the case of Susie Lamplugh, missing 40 years on. We'll hear from crime commentator Martin Bright. A former funeral director who has admitted to preventing the burials of 30 people and to giving families the wrong ashes has been described as pure evil by one of his victims. Robert Bush is being sentenced after pleading guilty to 67 offences. Families today have been describing their anger and anguish at what happened to their relatives after police discovered bodies and ashes at Bush's business in Hull in 2024. Sky's Charlotte Leeming has the latest.
Courts of law are, of course, usually places of procedure and order, but today it's been about people and those people who have lost parents, partners, siblings and babies, very much about their personal stories of loss and pain. Some people sobbed in court as they shared what had happened to them. Others sounded angry, some very overwhelmed, but determined to say their piece. We heard story after story of lives that had been ruined. We heard from the family of 80-year-old Jim Porter. His body was recovered at the Legacy funeral firm weeks after his death, with his hospital identification band still on his wrist and his ankle. His family thought he'd been cremated. His daughter Tina Thames said, "I had nightmares and thoughts of bodies just piled up came into my mind. The only way I can describe it is like seeing images of the bodies found in Auschwitz during the war." The court also heard from Jasmine Beverley, who lost her baby Sonny. She asked Bush to organise his funeral, his cremation. Sonny was later found at the funeral parlour, and that was nearly 2 months after his death. She said the discovery made her have suicidal thoughts, and we spoke to Jasmine earlier this year.
I trusted him with the most important person in my life, one of my children, and he let me down. It's evil. That's all I could say. It's evil.
So many stories of people dealing with psychological, emotional and physical impact of these offences 2 years on. Many said they were now unable to work, unable to sleep, unable to socialise, that their lives had been ruined. The court heard Bush breach the trust put on him by grieving vulnerable families. Terry White was recovered from the parlour 2 months after his death at the age of 73. His family collected ashes from a crematorium, but they had no recollection of him being cremated. His daughter Angela said Bush treated him like a piece of meat, saying he knew exactly what he was doing. He stripped all dignity from our loved ones, and for what? Money. He disgusts me. He pleaded guilty to charges, including keeping bodies for months after they should have been cremated, giving out the wrong ashes and taking money for funeral plans. And all this when people were grieving. He was described in court by one witness as a con man. And throughout it all, he just looked down at the floor impassively, not once looking at the families who were facing him. But they had their moment in court at last to speak directly to him, to share those very personal stories of anguish and anger. And this hearing continues tomorrow morning.
Let's get the latest now on the wildfires raging across Europe, with firefighters in France and Spain continuing to battle blazes as they brace for a new heat wave this week. Hundreds of thousands of people have already been forced to flee their homes, and today another 4,000 were told to evacuate from Lacanau near to Bordeaux. French authorities say there has been a significant flare-up in Cap Ferret, a coastal area to the west of the city, with aerial firefighting resources deployed. Let's speak now to Gary Brooks from the Bordeaux British community, who joins me now from Biscarrosse, around 40 miles southwest of Bordeaux. Gary, good to have your company this evening. First of all, what situation are you in at the moment? What's been happening over the last 24, 48 hours?
Well, we returned home on Sunday afternoon, and our house has not been touched by the fires. But there are properties that are closer to the woods that have been destroyed.
What kind of information have you been getting over the past few days? Because from those I've spoken to that have been affected in the Bordeaux region have said there is no sense of panic, but there is a real sense of urgency from those areas that are being evacuated as precaution. Yes,
if I could say that there are two major fires here. There's the Gironde fire going down to Cap Ferret, as you've described. But there's also been quite a big fire near Biscarrosse, started by a white van who caught fire and near to the edge of the road, but it was close enough for the forest to take fire. And this spread all around the outside of the eastern side of the town. Let me explain, there are, in my mind, 3 causes of evacuations from the areas. There's the fire itself. Obviously, if people are very close to the fire, they need to get away from it. But it's mainly the smoke that's causing a lot of these evacuations. And the authorities also want to keep the roads clear, obviously, for the pompiers and the police to pass quickly and efficiently through the area and get the water to where the fires are burning. So there's for different people. You've got people with transport who can get in their car and follow the authorities' instructions as how to get out of the area quickly. You've got people who haven't got transport, who need to go to community centres and the old and little mobility. So you've got a lot of different types of support that are going on at the time. So the communication actually is very good. It's through texts from the Mary, it's through the Facebook pages we have, it's through our WhatsApp groups, because we've got friends all over the village who are sharing different experiences as we go along. And there's, of course, the TV. There are very good local channels that are communicating with us.
You are part of a big community of Brits out there in the region, and as you said, you're all grouping together because there's a huge effort to tackle the fires, but also a huge evacuation effort and efforts to keep people safe in the areas they are in. What kind of stories have you been hearing from fellow Brits in the area?
Well, we got offers from a lot of Brits when we were evacuating, to go to them and share their beds and so on. In fact, later on, they were impacted by the fires approaching Bordeaux and have disappeared in camper vans to friends, families, and into hotels and sheets. So, yeah, there's been different ways in which people have been communicating with me and offering support.
Yeah, offering support. And in terms of tackling the fires, I know you're there with your wife. What have you seen in terms of that? We understand that, you know, aerial efforts are continuing to try and tackle this blaze and keep it under control, and this could take weeks.
Well, we had a fire in 2022 between Arcachon and Biscarrosse, but on the other side of the lake. So it didn't actually approach the villages. And from that, they've learned how to create fire breaks in the forest. We have 2 Canadair aeroplanes that dip down into the lakes, pick up water and spray. And now in the Gironde area, they've got an A400 on trial that picks up 6 times the amount of water that a Canadair does. So the French require more of those for future fires, obviously. If I go back to the actual evacuation, we have a friend, Carol, and her 2-year-old granddaughter that went to a couple of friends who had their granddaughter. And I said, if the smoke gets too much, you come to me. And so Thursday night, they were with us. And an old elderly couple that I look after, he's 96 and she's 83. They'd gone to the community centres, but were sat in the car for a long time, and he was getting very tired. So they came to us around 10:30 in the evening, and the 4 families spent the night together in my house. And but the evacuation was imminent. It was going to happen with the smoke descending quickly. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, one of the volunteer police force arrived on the doorstep saying we had 30 minutes to vacate. We got into our cars, and the only road available then was through a military base near the coast. and the road is not normally accessible. It's close to the public. But the military were guarding it for 30 kilometres, they have, down to a place called Mimizan, where our elderly couple finished up in support, very good support that was offered down there in hotels and in campsites. And we went on to my friend's daughter's, 100 kilometres south, and Carol and her granddaughter went to her daughter in Bordeaux. So we had a plan, we executed that, and we waited for 2 days until the authorities communicated that my house, certainly in the sector we are, because we're in an urbanisation, it's unlikely that the fire can reach us. We were told on Saturday night from 8 o'clock we could move back, but we waited till Sunday afternoon to allow any smoke to clear. And throughout all that, there were no traffic jams that we had. Cars were moving through the military zone at 70 kilometres an hour. It was policed. It was very well organised and controlled. The houses were monitored for burglaries by the local police. And there's a systematic communications from the Mary, good support from the nurses who were supporting these community centres. I lost touch with this elderly couple and was able to track them through the John Downs and the nurses who called on me and said, they're trying to contact you. Will you accept them back into the house? So they came back Monday night, and they're in their house tonight.
Oh, well, listen, Gary, cool, calm heads all round. It all sounds very orderly and, as you said, the community all rallying together and all doing for each other what you can, and the authorities assisting you. Thank you so much for coming on to talk to us, and we wish you all the best because, of course, this is an ongoing situation. Gary Brooks, Vice President of Bordeaux Brits, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah-Jane. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, next tonight to one of the UK's longest missing person cases, the disappearance of Susie Lamplugh. Susie was a 25-year-old estate agent in West London who vanished after leaving her office to show a flat to a prospective client. It's now 40 years since she disappeared, and the Metropolitan Police say they're hoping to track down 30 witnesses they still want to speak to. Martin Brunt has this report.
It's 40 years since estate agent Susie Lamplugh vanished, presumed murdered. And since then, police have searched many places for her body, all in vain. But could her remains lie hidden in this canal, a few miles from where she was last seen, and dumped there by this man, John Cannan, the prime suspect? A sighting from a witness suggests it could be a possibility.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 days after Susie Lamplugh vanished, and the witness was walking along this canal towpath on his way to work when he saw coming towards him a man pushing or pulling a very large wrapped-up bag on some kind of suitcase trolley. He walked past the man, and the witness said he then heard a big splash. Did he go to the police?
He did. He went on 3 occasions to Brentford Police Station, and he told them what happened, but that statement or information never found its way to the murder investigation. And I was totally unaware of it until I got an email in 2019 telling me about it. And I passed that information to the police, to the cold case review team.
And what happened?
Nothing.
Why not?
Ask them. I don't understand the rationale. I would have meticulously searched that stretch of the canal. It's an outstanding line of inquiry as far as I'm concerned.
The Metropolitan Police say part of the canal was searched 5 years earlier in a separate investigation, and nothing was found relating to Susie. Jim Dickey says it wasn't the right spot and they should look again.
Yes, I have a dislike of inflated egos.
The witness also said he was certain it was the prime suspect, John Cannan, he saw wheeling the case beside the canal. Cannan, a convicted killer, was later named by police as the man they believe murdered Susie, though they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. He denied it was him and has died since.
It's one of the longest open investigations, so it's 40 years. John Cannan is a very good suspect. He remains our suspect in it, but I'm always keeping an open mind. We haven't got any forensics that links John Cannan to Susie Lamplugh at all, so that's why I'm keeping an open mind, that it may be that other people were also involved.
Intriguingly, DCI Foster said there were still potential witnesses police want to speak to.
There's about 30 people, I would say, that we need to get in contact with, try and trace them, that may hold additional information that we didn't have before.
The cold case team has announced that unless a significant new lead emerges, in a year's time, Susie's case will be put into a file titled Inactive. Susie left her office in Fulham around lunchtime to show a house to a client she noted in her work diary as Mr. Kipper. Witnesses saw her at the house, some with a man who resembled John Cannan. He'd just been freed from prison and was living nearby. That night, Susie's car was found abandoned a mile away. You want to find her?
Yes, you want, yeah. So you want to do the job.
Ultimately, we would love to find her, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's not.
You can't wait.
You can't. Yes, you can't wait. Yeah.
To find her. I like to remember her as she was. Susie was a vibrant, loved life. And I think if you think about where could she be, you're not going to remember how she was. You're going to think about what might have happened.
For her family, the 40th anniversary of Susie Lamplug's death is a time to be positive, to share memories of her, even to joke, they say, about the things she did that made them laugh. But they also want to find her. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
Martin's with me in the studio now. Martin, what jumped out at me from your report was the fact that police want to speak to 30 people. This is a case that is 40 years old, yet there are still 30 people they want to talk to about Susie Lamplug's disappearance.
Yes, it's slightly misleading. These aren't 30 people that they've had no contact with. This comes from a review of all the evidence, and I don't know if we saw it in that report, but in other reports I've done today, the police were very keen to show us the old card index system that they used in those days. All murder investigations, before computers, had these card index systems, and within them are there's information from individuals. That's basically what this card system is. So, for instance, I mean, this explains what they're going to be doing over the next year. The officer in charge said that there might be a John Smith. There's a card with John Smith's name on it, and he called the police in 1987. But there isn't another card that says what happened, whether he gave a formal statement, whether he was properly interviewed. So it's people like that they want to go back and trace. Now, a lot of them, I guess, or some of them at least, aren't going to be around anymore because of the passage of time. But they want to go back and make sure that everybody they've identified in those 30 did give police the information that they volunteered. But like many other investigations of those days, it's true that the police got overwhelmed with the amount of information that was coming in, and they might have, put John Smith's name when he phoned up and said, "I've got something to tell you," wrote a card and put it in the system. But then they were so overwhelmed with the amount of information and the number of people that they had to contact.
Did they follow up properly on everything?
Yeah,
was it
Mr.
cross-checked with other
maybe he wasn't
pieces of information?
asked to give a proper statement.
Yeah. So that's what they're going to be doing over the course of the next year. Why one more year? Why this time frame?
Well, they've got a few people working on the squad. They've got 30 people to try and trace. They think it's going to take them a year to find out exactly where those people are, and if they are still alive and they can locate them, to go and interview them. They just think 12 months will be adequate time, and if at the end of that 12-month period there are no new leads, no new clues, then the case gets put in the what they call the inactive file, which means that it becomes dormant. It's not closed forever, but it will sit there. There won't be an active police squad looking at the Susie Lamplugh case, but if any new information were to emerge, any new forensic technique that's developed that could be applied to material that they've got within the file, then it could be reopened.
And an interesting development was the police saying that they now believe other people may have been involved. Is that a new development?
Well, this was quite intriguing. The police did a briefing for crime reporters, and of course they were asked about this guy John Cannan, who famously and very unusually in 2002 Scotland Yard said was the prime suspect. They named him, but they said they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. They wanted to charge him, but the Crown prosecutors said there isn't quite enough evidence. So the assumption was that all the police involved assumed or believed that he was the man who'd abducted and killed Susie Lamplugh. But interestingly, when we interviewed the senior officer today, she said, well, you know, I'm keeping an open mind. There's no forensic link to John Cannan. Perhaps there are other people who were involved. And it's not quite clear whether she thinks somebody was helping John Cannan. I think that's probably what she meant. Or whether she's suggesting that maybe it wasn't John Cannan and it was a complete stranger who's never been in the system before.
And finally, Martin, you know, you've covered this case since the first day. You've followed it for the last 40 years, and you interviewed Susie Lamplugh's sisters for your report, and that's the first time you'd met them. I wonder what kind of sense you got as someone that's been following it for so long. They've lived this for 40 years. What's the family's overall feeling about where this will end up? They still have hope and they still want answers.
They want to know where Susie is.
Yeah.
So that they can collect her remains and give her, you know, the funeral that she's never had. But they were remarkably upbeat. I was quite surprised. I thought they might approach all these anniversaries, you know, the 10-year, the 20-year, 30-year, now the 40th year, with some kind of trepidation. But they didn't have to be persuaded to talk to us. They were very keen. I guess they saw this as an opportunity to get some more publicity, just in case there is somebody out there who still has information. But again, they see it as a time to celebrate Susie's life. I asked them about this alleged sighting of somebody dumping a suitcase in the canal just round the corner from here, 3 days after Susie disappeared, a man who looked like John Cannan. They really didn't want to dwell on that. They're not interested in the details of what happened to her. They want to remember her as she was. But they want to find her, of course. And as they said, you know, they're getting on a bit. They were both younger than Susie, one by 10 years. And they've got, one of them has, I can't remember if Tamsin or Lizzie has a daughter at 25, who's the same age as Susie was when she vanished. But they had a big family gathering in May on Susie's birthday. And they both said, we had a wonderful time just remembering her and laughing about the things she did that made us laugh, not dwelling on, you know, the horror that she must have gone through.
Yeah. And as a family, never giving up hope in her name. Martin, thank you so much. Martin Brunt there, our crime commentator on the unsolved case of Susie Lamplugh, 40 years on. Thank you. Still to come here on the UK Tonight, the Shadow Home Secretary inadvertently getting a front row seat for a French shooting drill in the Channel. Details on the way. And why Gianni Infantino and FIFA are coming under fire from UEFA and the Prime Minister.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.
Welcome to the DHL Sports Hub on Sky News. Coming up, we're going to hear from both camps as an all-British heavyweight fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury edges ever closer. And we're with the golfer who got to his first professional victory in less tournaments than Tiger Woods, the American Jackson Koiven, after he sees off the world #1 Scottie Scheffler to win the 3M Open. But we start with Formula One and a rejuvenated Lando Norris, who insists the pressure is all on the championship leader Kimi Antonelli when the season resumes with the Dutch Grand Prix next month after a 4-week summer break. Norris finally won his first race as world champion with a dominant performance in Hungary on Sunday, as McLaren's big upgrade package made its mark, finishing 15 seconds clear of second-place Max Verstappen and nearly 4 more in front of Antonelli. It was certainly a day of encouragement for the Briton. Norris is still 91 points adrift of the Mercedes driver, so appreciates it's a big gap to overcome, but hasn't ruled it out.
Kimi Antonelli has a big points advantage. Can you put the pressure on him on the second half of the season? He's a young guy. I mean, does this make you believe you can take it to the later rounds, maybe?
How many points behind am I?
98, I think it is.
98?
90 odd. But look, Max was similar.
He should feel the pressure, that's for sure.
You know what I mean, don't you?
98, that'll be done in like 2 races, so, or 10. But yeah, I mean, the pressure's on him for sure. There's no pressure on me. I've been feeling very confident. They've been making more mistakes as a team, and we've made less, and we've certainly come strong, but I expect them to still win races. I expect us to win more races. We just need to be perfect from here on out for the whole year. We need to improve the car still. It was certainly better. We were certainly the quickest all weekend from quali to race, but not every race is going to be this simple, and are we going to be as quick? So we need to work hard to try and get the car to be this good everywhere, and if we can, then maybe that's a genuine question.
Great to see the car being competitive for a pole position, being competitive for a victory. Good to see, great to see that hard work has been rewarded. Thank you very much to all the men and women at McLaren for having been so committed in the design and delivery of the upgrades. Lando was in condition to squeeze every single millisecond off the car, which was good enough yesterday for the pole position, which I think it was 12 milliseconds or something. But today, if anything, the pace was even more encouraging. As soon as Lando was in the lead, I think he proved that he had a decent margin. So great news there, but obviously quite a lot of work to do on reliability.
So, plenty for Norris to enjoy with his team afterwards, but it wasn't all good for McLaren. Oscar Piastri got ahead of Norris on the opening lap, but a minor collision with Carlos Sainz in 17th later slowed his progress. Now, Piastri was unhappy Norris got to pit without the Australian having a chance to re-establish himself first, with Norris taking the lead and going on to win from there. Piastri did join the post-race celebrations, but admits he was frustrated by what happened.
Getting taken out by a back mark is never really one of the things you think can go wrong, but I was proven wrong. And then obviously the gearbox, so not the easiest of days.
Were you disappointed to be pitted into that traffic, or was it the timing of the stop in particular you weren't happy with?
No, I mean, I was more just that I'd been crashed into by Carlos, and in the moment I was hoping maybe they would not pit Lando because of that incident, to at least give me the chance to stay in the lead, but I think that's not very reasonable.
So one to forget then for Piastri, who falls to 7th as he's overtaken in the standings by Verstappen. Norris is now within 10 points of 4th place Charles Leclerc, while Antonelli's podium place means his advantage over Lewis Hamilton increases to 50 points. George Russell was 7th after his car went into anti-stall. Leclerc was 4th, with the Monegasque driver also taking his first DHL fastest lap of the season. That came on lap 58 of 70, and it was exactly 0.3 of a second better than his Ferrari teammate Hamilton's best effort on the next rotation. There was the best DHL fastest pit stop of the season from Racing Bull's Arvid Lindblad. He posted a visit of 1.99 seconds. Red Bull's junior team are now just 6 points behind second place Ferrari in those standings. And while Norris was a popular winner, it was Verstappen who was chosen as driver of the day, presented by Salesforce. The four-time champion still impressing despite his frustration with his car, as he took 18.9% of the vote. Well, it wasn't just Piastri who was left thinking of what might have been. Hamilton also rued taking a third pit stop during a virtual safety car when his race rivals Verstappen and Antonelli didn't come in, with the decision compounded further by the fact that he was then given this 5-second penalty for going over the pit lane speed limit by just 0.1 kilometres an hour.
Is there any regret that you took the pit stop, that final one?
Yeah, I definitely don't think we should have taken the stop. But the call came literally just before the pit lane entry, and I didn't have time to debate. And you've got to trust that there's a decision that's been taken. But in hindsight, my tyres were totally fine. I was probably going to lose out to Max, but I think I could have kept third at least. And then, yeah, just open up the door to obviously the penalty that I got at the end.
Away from Budapest, the Bahrain Grand Prix has been added back into this year's schedule following its cancellation in April, although it's taking place in Malaysia. The event was postponed due to the conflict in the Middle East. It'll now be held at Sepang in between races in Azerbaijan and Singapore, bringing the total number of rounds this year up to 23. On to boxing, and Anthony Joshua says it's time to make the proposed fight with his fellow British heavyweight Tyson Fury happen, after both men won on their returns to the ring. Joshua survived a knockdown in the first 20 seconds against Christian Prenga in Saudi Arabia before ending the contest with a powerful combination in the second round. Now his attention turns to concluding a deal to take on Fury after months of speculation over whether it will happen. And he's hopeful of delivering what fans want.
There's two sides of this thing. One is fighter. You have to have that vim, that but also there's respect. I respect everything he's done and everything that he's achieved, but as a fighting person and as someone who has been calling for this fight for a long time, we're here now. Shout out to His Excellency. Shout out to Eddie Hearn for making these opportunities possible, and I hope the fans will be in for a lovely treat.
As for Fury, he took 7 rounds to see off Poland's Mariusz Wach in front of a 1,500-strong crowd in Thailand. The self-proclaimed Gypsy Kings manager, Spencer Brown, is confident a clash with Joshua will take place, with London's Wembley Stadium a possible venue.
He's faced everybody in his career. Anybody that's been any good, anybody that's been top, he's faced them all. So this is just another name to him. It's just another day's work. Obviously, it's a bigger picture, bigger scenario. There's a lot on the line. It's bragging rights as well, isn't it? He's not bothered in the least, honestly. He's like that with every fight. He goes to work. That's what he does. He boxes. We'll fight anywhere, any place, any time, anywhere. Don't matter to us.
So if you had a perfect choice of a venue, though, Spencer, what would you choose for this fight? What does it deserve?
Wembley. Wembley, simple.
Now, could we be about to see the type of rise in golf that surpasses even that of the legendary Tiger Woods? Well, his fellow American Jackson Koiven has just claimed his first ever PGA Tour title, and he took less tournaments to do it than the 15-time major winner. Koiven built on his brilliant score of 61 on Saturday with a bogey-free 66 on the final day of the 3M Open in Minnesota to win by 3 shots from the world number 1 Scotty Scheffler. It came just 24 days after he turned professional. He's only the 8th player since 1970 to win a PGA event in 3 starts or less, with Woods himself taking 5 for his first victory.
I definitely had some nerves coming down on 18, but, you know, all throughout the crowd I kept hearing Scotty's coming, and I just tried to tone that out and keep playing the golf I knew I could, and was able to find some good putts coming down the stretch. I mean, I just love this game. I love golf. It's everything I do. I have a tough time getting away from it, but like I said, it's been love at first sight, and just want to say thanks to my parents for helping me get into this and supporting me throughout the entire journey.
Is it fair to say this is just the beginning?
Yes, ma'am.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.